Hello, I'm Brent Lupia, founder of Brent Lupia Coaching. I'm here to talk about something that I learned recently on one of my coaching calls with a client. If you're a founder feeling anxious, scattered, or pulled in too many directions, this is probably not something that's correlated with effort. It probably is more about where your energy is going. They recently got to a point when they were profitable, but not to the point when they were like really thriving. So they were feeling the pull to kind of go back to some of the work they were doing before to offset that income. So I know that struggle what it's like to when you're kind of watching as the expenses stack up, money's coming in and it's almost evenly matched, maybe you're a little behind, maybe you get a little ahead, but you never really feel like you're thriving. It always feels like you're surviving. This client has been surviving and then building up to a point when they were thriving with different works they were doing before, and then they finally took a chance on themselves. And it was a rough go at first, but they just kept grinding. And they were able to do this because they found something that they were passionate in. That is so rare. Let me tell you how rare that is. So hard to find when someone can look within themselves and say, oh, whatever X thing is, that is what drives me each day. That's what, when I'm focusing on it, it doesn't feel like work. Hours just seem to slip by because it's just infinite energy. Even when they have limited sleep, they can just show up. That's what passion does. Work is something that it takes willpower. It feels draining. It's not something that particularly drives you. It is something that you do to make money to pay for what your needs are. But he found a passion that he can build a business off. And so, of course, with that, as he focused on that business, it started growing to the point where they are at now. They're almost there. They're almost there. But because they're almost there, the pull to the comfortable gets stronger because it's easier to focus on something when there is a gap between where you are and where you're going. And then when things actually start getting good, well, your guard's just going down a little bit. You don't need to fight as much. And that's when a lot of stuff can creep in. And that's where they end up finding themselves, right? Because as I was talking to them, it was clear that they were talking about they had a side consulting business that was bringing in some money. It was associated with the work they were doing before. And the problem there was that the clients that they had, sometimes they would have months where they were feasting, right? It was good pay, good work. Other times it felt more like famine, where just the clients that were bidding, they were bargain hunting, and it just was like, what's the point, right? Where it truly felt more like work. And just watching their energy shift when they talked about their personal business, what they're passionate about, and then the side gigs to help offset the income. And it was quite clear to me that they were splitting their energy, and they weren't splitting it to things that are going to be more beneficial for them. They were splitting it based on old loops that appear to be beneficial to help them survive, and then the new loops they were creating, which essentially is focused on self belief. So when I pointed out to them, I was like, hey, when you anchor down and you grinded away at your business, you grew it 200x, right? And that's why you got to the point that you're at now where you're profitable. But the times when you were focusing on this side consulting gig or the other type of work that they were doing before, their own business wasn't thriving as much. And rightly so, because they're not actually focusing on it. So when I mentioned this to them, you could just see the light bulb went on. It was clearly displayed in their eyes. They understood. And another thing I told them was, hey, you can keep the consulting gig, but price it accordingly, because that's what happens a lot too. And this is another thing that we end up unpacking in this session is, and this is something I'm personally going through more so, especially when I'm on this journey that I'm on now with building my own business, is belief in oneself. On their consulting gig, they had their prices low, not because of the value that they offered, because if you looked at that, they were a bargain for what they brought, right? Because of all the years of experience and the people that they worked for and what they bring to the table. But they valued themselves based on external factors. looking at other people and what they brought, but they didn't look inside themselves and see, oh, where are they different? What makes them stand out? What makes them special? And when I told them that, and I said, hey, very simple, increase your prices so only the people that are willing to bid for your work actually see your value, and they're going to be good clients because they're going to be paying more. And in doing that, you're going to reduce the amount of clients that are going to be wasting your time. Now, because you have more time, you can focus on that business to cover the financial gap that you're experiencing right now. Whenever they would focus more of their time and energy in the business would grow. So it was almost a direct correlation between energy in and then profit out. You get better money on the consultant side, and you can actually show up to work with more of that passion energy, right? Because you're getting paid what you feel like you deserve. And watch it just process for them and realize, oh, they're not in such a bad situation. They're actually in an incredible situation because they're in a leverage situation. They just didn't realize that leverage was themselves. And that's the key takeaway I want you all to realize from this video is that when you believe in yourself, when you love yourself, what comes from that is infinite because everything is defined by you. It's not defined by the external factors. You know what's true for you. You know what your value is. And that goes into everything you do. So to close this out, clarity isn't motivation, it's alignment. And alignment creates momentum. And if you want help identifying your biggest energy leaks, feel free to use the link in the description below. Look forward to talking to you guys soon.